said, greet the brother with a kiss of charity.
Hey!
And that's very important.
In boxing, legends aren't made in training camps or press conferences. They're defined by their biggest nights, those moments when they show the world exactly who they are. And what better way to start than with a man who redefined heavyweight power? Big George Foreman. A two-time heavyweight champion who struck fear into his opponents with raw, terrifying force. A man who bulldozed the most feared fighters of his era, disappeared from boxing for a decade, and then pulled off one of the most legendary comebacks ever. Today, we're diving into his top 5 wins. The fights that built his legend and showed the world why George Foreman was one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. But first, what made this man so special? What transformed a street thug into an Olympic gold medalist, then into a feared champion, then a preacher, and finally, an aging warrior who defied time itself? Let's find out. Number 5, Foreman versus Michael Moorer, 1994. By the time George Foreman stepped into the ring against Michael Moorer on November 5th, 1994, most had written him off as a relic. At 45 years old, Foreman was old enough to be the father of most top heavyweights. His best days had been 20 years earlier. After losing to Muhammad Ali in 1974's Rumble in the Jungle, and then to Jimmy Young in 1977, Foreman claimed to have had a near-death religious experience. He abandoned boxing, became a Christian preacher, and faded from the sport. Then, 10 years later, George Foreman was coming back. People thought it was a joke. Foreman was bald, heavier, slower. But what he lacked in youth, he made up for in experience, patience, and one-punch knockout power. His opponent, Michael Moorer, was 26 years old, undefeated with a perfect 35-0 record, and had recently defeated Evander Holyfield to become the WBA and IBF heavyweight champion. For 9 rounds, Moorer methodically outboxed Foreman, piling up points while the old man patiently plodded forward. But Foreman had been setting a trap all night. At 45 years and 299 days old, George Foreman became the oldest heavyweight champion in history. Number 4, Foreman versus Ron Lyle, 1976. After his shocking loss to Muhammad Ali, Foreman was no longer the invincible destroyer. For the first time, he tasted humiliation. His comeback opponent? Ron Lyle, a man who had fought for his life both in and out of the ring. After a cautious first round, the war began. In round 2, Lyle landed a massive right hand that visibly shook Foreman. But the 4th round, that's when this fight became the stuff of legend. Early in the round, Lyle connected with a monster right hand that sent Foreman crashing to the canvas. But instead of retreating when he got up, Foreman charged forward and knocked Lyle down with his own right hand. The fight had become a war of survival. Whoever landed the next big shot would win. In the 5th, both men were completely drained. Lyle landed another thunderous right that buckled Foreman's knees. Then, with everything he had left, Foreman dug deep and unleashed a brutal barrage until Lyle collapsed against the ropes. George Foreman had won. But more importantly, he had proven something. He still had the heart of a champion. This victory sent a message through the heavyweight division. But there was still one man Foreman needed to face again. The first fighter whose career he had destroyed. 3, Foreman versus Joe Frazier Ducksekin, 1976. By mid-1976, both Foreman and Joe Frazier had something to prove. For Frazier, it was deeply personal. In their first fight 3 years earlier, Foreman had utterly annihilated him, knocking him down 6 times in 2 rounds before the referee mercifully stopped it. This time, Frazier tried a new approach, coming in with a shaved head and different strategy, hoping to neutralize Foreman's power. For 4 rounds, Frazier managed to avoid the kind of brutal early onslaught that doomed him in 1973. But George Foreman wasn't fooled. He was patient, waiting for his moment. In the 5th, it happened. A single uppercut rocked Frazier, his legs buckled. Sensing weakness, Foreman moved in for the kill. The difference in size and power was simply too much. Once again, Foreman had broken Frazier down, But the question remained. Was Foreman truly back to his devastating best? Cirque 2, Foreman versus Ken Norton, 1974. By March 1974, George Foreman was at the absolute peak of his destructive powers as heavyweight champion. His opponent, Ken Norton, was no joke. He had already shocked the world once by breaking Muhammad Ali's jaw and defeating him in 1973. Norton's awkward cross-arm defensive style had given Ali fits in 2 close fights. But Foreman wasn't Ali. He didn't dance. He didn't play mind games. He was a wrecking ball. The fight began with Norton trying to box smartly, using his jab and movement to keep Foreman at bay. For a moment, it looked like Norton's game plan might work. Then, in the second round, Foreman closed the distance. A thunderous right hand crashed into Norton's chin. The challenger wobbled. Norton hit the canvas, looking stunned. He managed to get up, but his legs were shaky. Foreman pounced again, sending Norton down a second time with another brutal series of punches. Norton's eyes were glazed over, but he refused to quit. Finally, Foreman finished the job. One last devastating uppercut sent Norton sprawling to the mat for the 3rd time. It was another second-round destruction. Foreman had done something truly frightening. He had annihilated a man who had given Muhammad Ali one of the hardest fights of his career. The world now clamored for Foreman versus Ali, the fight that would settle everything. But before that fateful match in Zaire, there was the night that started it all. Number 1, Foreman versus Joe Frazier, 1973. By January 1973, the heavyweight division had a king, Joe Frazier. Frazier was undefeated, had won Olympic gold, and was coming off the biggest win of his career, a 15-round war with Muhammad Ali in 1971's Fight of the Century. Standing in front of him that night in Kingston, Jamaica, was not just another challenger. George Foreman wasn't just hungry. He was a wrecking machine, and the world was about to find out. From the opening bell, Frazier did what he always did. He charged forward. His strategy had worked against Ali, against Gerry Cooney, against nearly everyone he had faced. But Foreman wasn't backing up. Instead of retreating, Foreman stood his ground and began unloading powerful uppercuts and straight right hands. Within 2 minutes, Frazier had already been rocked multiple times. Then, with 50 seconds left in the round, Foreman landed a monstrous right uppercut. Frazier's knees buckled, his body lifted slightly off the ground. He was down, but the champion got up. The second round was one of the most devastating in heavyweight history. Frazier had barely recovered when Foreman knocked him down again, then again, and again. Every time Frazier got up, Foreman smashed him back down. Howard Cosell, calling the fight on television, famously shouted, "Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!" Frazier's legendary toughness was the only thing keeping him in the fight. But by the 6th knockdown, the referee had seen enough. The fight was over. In just 2 rounds, Foreman had obliterated the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world. The boxing world was stunned. Joe Frazier, the man who had conquered Muhammad Ali, had just been humiliated in less than 6 minutes. Foreman had delivered one of the most one-sided beatdowns in heavyweight title history. This wasn't just a victory. Foreman's journey was one of redemption, power, and resilience. His legacy is forever etched in boxing history. Rest in peace, Big George. You were truly one of a kind. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more boxing stories.